first question they asked was, how many people are familiar with F1 or have seen a race? One hand went up, 20. One woman raised her hand and she said, when you said the name of the movie and it was about racing, I wanted to get up and leave. I have absolutely no interest in that sport. She said, not only did I rate the movie excellent, I'm telling all my friends to go see it. Because she was emotionally engaged in this movie.
Something I'm sure that you never get too used to, the idea of releasing something you've been working on, something you've been passionate about with a wide crew of people, passionate people, to the world. And really finding out, how people feel about the art that you in your heart know is special. And that moment must be just still to this day, aside from the process of creating something, kind of the biggest kick to know it's about to be seen.
It's exciting and nerve-wracking all at the same time, because you never know how the public's going to receive it. As smart as we are and all the testing we do, the audience knows a lot more than we do collectively. And that's the exciting part about what happens when you release a movie. Anybody who tells you they have a hit movie before the audience, before it really opens, they're lying. They don't know. Nobody knows. And even if you have, test audiences that say it's brilliant, it can open to $2. And it's happened to me, where they love the movie. It's fantastic. And then nobody shows up.
How do you sort of process a disappointment like that when your instinct told you at the time, like it has many times that it has worked, that this was going to work, this is going to be okay, because it's about instinct and taste at the end of the day, isn't it?
Well, I'm still really proud of what we do. And that's if I'm satisfied, I feel good about it. But I can't understand what an audience doesn't see in it or sees in it. We just don't know. We use our best instincts to make movies. And, I've gotten movies that, again, have gotten great reviews and people love, and they disappear. But I know they're really good movies. And the critics know it's a good movie. Just for whatever happened in between us finishing it and it going into a theater. I don't know what happens on the way, but something happens.
Yeah, it's the great art of letting go. I think that, that's something as human beings that we sort of figure out over the course of our life. And you certainly understand the principle in that when you create something and have to let it go every time.
But what's interesting now in the world we live in is they're streaming. So these things live on forever, and sometimes they become really successful in streaming, but where people didn't want to pay money to see it, but they'll watch it over and over again on a streaming service like Apple.
Yeah, that's one of the plus sides of having a streaming service and the ability to experience things, as you say, kind of on your own time. The downside of that, obviously, that I think movie makers in particular are really experiencing is the sense of eventization, right? The idea of a movie landing in a theater and for just a brief moment in people's lives, it really matters. It's a very big priority to disappear into the darkness and enjoy it. How have you found that transition? Because you've seen it go from, the absolute apex of theater-going experiences, hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars at the box office, now into the streaming era. And I know you still want to make movies for the big screen. So how's the balance for you as a movie maker?
I love creating content. That's my passion and what I love doing. And whether it's for a big screen, which I prefer because you see the results immediately, or for a streaming service, it's still a creative art. And you can use your art, whether it's in your living room or on the big screen. The movie we just finished for Apple, F1 the movie, is to be experienced on the big screen. Yeah. It's visually, it's stunning. The sound is amazing. It takes you inside a world that you never be a part of. It's immersive. The seats shake. And you don't have to be a racing fan to really enjoy this movie at all. It's just the drama inside our characters that goes on in this world is what captivates people, and it's emotionally engaging. And that's the best thing that we can do. We can take you on a ride, and we transport you to this world that you'll never be a part of on the inside, and you see how it actually works. And you live the drama of Sonny Hayes, who's played by Brad Pitt, and his journey of redemption. We all want redemption. We all want...
That's a human experience, yeah.
We all make mistakes. We want to redo them.
Yeah.
And also of teamwork, on how teamwork can enhance your life. And we all want that around us, have a great team that works together. And the movie is this kind of unfunctional group of people who can't quite get it together, and how this one man can come in and kind of mold it into something that's organic and works really well together.
You've wanted to make a movie about Formula One Grand Prix racing, I believe, since Days of Thunder.
Yeah, we've always loved the sport of motor racing. I grew up in Detroit, so I mean, it's a car city.
Yeah.
And cars were always a big part of my upbringing there. You know, we always waited for the new models to come out and who can get pictures of them, and it was exciting. Yeah, so but I really didn't know much about F1 until 4 years ago when I started watching Drive to Survive.
Yeah.
And really got a sense of the exciting world that encapsulates these amazing athletes. There are only 10 teams, 2 drivers to each team. And it's the only sport where your teammate is your competitor because you all want to be the number one driver on your team. And even this last Sunday, 2 teammates crashed in McLaren trying to pass each other. And so you can see how visceral the sport is. Even the guy who's in your same garage, you run off the track or try to. And then you have to get, Monday morning you go back to work again with the same person.
Well, it's kind of the timing was perfect last weekend for this film in particular because obviously without giving too much away, there's a part of the arc where that occurs where these 2 drivers are at each other's throats even though they should be really working together. And sure enough, just, on the eve of releasing this film, art and real life, all of a sudden the lines blur beautifully,
Well, there's nothing in this film as far as racing that hasn't happened in F1 through the history. We did an enormous amount of research. Lewis Hamilton is a producer on the movie. He's the first person we went to, even before Brad.
Yeah.
We got Lewis involved, before we even started writing the screenplay, just to make sure we had everything right. And we spent, one day we had 12 hours in a room with Lewis and Brad, just going through every page of the script to make sure we had everything as good as you can make it.
So he was the continuity expert ultimately, kind of
Yes.
saying, listen, this is just not kind of how it happens on the track.
And it even comes down to sound, where he'd say we're at Silverstone and he's listening to a reel and he says, well, you're going into turn 3 and it sounds like you're in 3rd gear. We'd be in 2nd gear. So, I mean, we had to modulate.
Yeah.
And he'd say things, well, in turn 5, you can't pass. If you try to pass, you'll crash. We used that. We had a crash on that turn. So anything we can do to make it as real as possible.
I mean, I feel like that is you and your process of making films. I've never seen, in particular, the ones that deal with kind of the extreme version of the human experience, whether it's fighter jets or race cars, where you don't lean into the detail. And in particular with F1, it's necessary because fans are obsessive. The sport itself is obsessive. It's incredibly detail-orientated down to the millisecond. The tiniest little thing can change the outcome of a race for you. So, there's no broad strokes in this particular film, right? It must have been hard or challenging, I should say, to be as detailed as you can be, but also want for us to experience the big picture excitement of a Bruckheimer film.
It's a combination of a lot of great artists. That's what it is. And it's what I try to do is gather the most talented people I can and let them go, protect them and let them go do their thing. And that's what happened with F1. We had Brad's an enormous, not only a brilliant actor, Academy Award winner, but he's into the details. He sits and works on the script with us. He worked on the edit with us. He worked on every possible way that we can make the film better and mold it into something that he would be really proud of. And that's so important. I mean, so I've worked with actors who, they come in and they do their lines, they go home.
Yeah.
And they show up at the premiere, and that's it. But he's in the weeds, kind of like Tom Cruise, the same thing. They're both in the weeds on everything, and they make everything better. They really do. Some people could say, well, they're meddling, and it's not true at all because both of them are really smart and really good filmmakers, and they do things that are unexpected and things I would never think of, or the director. So they bring the secret sauce to everything they do.
Well, that's the art of collaboration, and I wanted to talk to you about that. I'm glad you brought that up because you're a very hands-on producer in the sense that you are a creative human being. I know producers who, work the numbers and ensure that things stay on track. That's not you. You are a creative person who finds yourself working to do all of that work, but from a creative point of view. So, you said something before about finding talented people and giving them the space, protecting them to do their best work. What is the art of collaboration when you in your heart know something could be better and the director doesn't see it or someone doesn't see it? And how do you know to push and not pull back?
It's the art of persuasion.
Can you elaborate a bit on that? Because I'd love to get your take on what the art of persuasion is, a Bruckheimer take.
You just keep going at it. You just don't give up. You keep pushing and pushing until you either you're right or you're wrong. It's always the best argument wins. And sometimes they'll say something to me, and I say, wait, you're right. It shouldn't be that way. When you have a creative relationship with your talent, which we try to do, but they come at it from a whole different point of view than I do. I'm the audience. I want to see. I make movies I want to see. I don't know what you like. I don't know what anybody else likes, but I know what I like. And I surround myself with people who, in my opinion, do things creatively interesting of things I think the public would want to see or be a part of.
What was that first film for you, where you were in the audience as a child and you knew that not only did you want to be in the film business, but that you knew what you wanted to make because that film made you feel a certain way and you never shook it?
I think it was, Steve McQueen and The Great Escape. And I was passionate about David Lean as far as a filmmaker, Bridge on the River Kwai, Dr. Zhivago. He was an amazing director and visualist. And I believe it's not radio, it's film. It's got to be interesting to look at, beautiful to look at. And we try to hire the best artists, cinematographers, production designers, costumers, everything that can give you a visual experience that's unique and different. If you want something that stands out and it looks, just by looking at it, that you see something different visually, and then you add the sound and the great storytelling, it makes it really something that's unique. And that's the word, unique. It's got to be unique.
You work in big budget films, to make something that stands out, that looks beautiful on a big screen with great sound and the detail of cinematographers to say, Jerry, I need this shot. It's going to cost. And you're like, yeah, my job is to protect you and your vision. Let's go do it. So with that being said, as someone who has made billions, tens of billions of dollars at the box office, but also spent a lot of money making these kind of films, what is one of the great sort of lessons you've learned about big money decision making?
I think it's all about, if you have a scene that's on the screen for 4 minutes, let's say, you want to spend some money, 4 or 5 minutes. If it's on the screen for 30 seconds, try to save it.
The hierarchy of time.
Yeah, that's it. You put the money where the audience is really going to see it. Don't spend it on a 10 or 20 second little bit wherever, you want everything perfect, but, let's not, spend 2 days doing 20 seconds.
Let's not cheat the crash scene.
Yeah, exactly.
The authenticity of capturing real F1 on screen requires buy-in from F1 off screen. And like any great sport franchise, they're a world within a world. The NFL is the same. Anywhere like that is the same. They protect their franchise. So how did you earn the trust of F1, not just the teams, but of the actual federation, the racing federation, to be able to make this film?
It took 4 years, basically, to make this movie. And the first thing we did is Brad, myself, and Joe, the director, flew to London and met with Stefano, who's the head of F1. And we explained to him what we wanted to do. And Joe developed a reel, and he showed Stefano, this is how we made Top Gun, because we didn't have Russian jets, so we skinned these planes. And then he showed him another reel. He took a race sequence, and he said, now here's how we're going to integrate our car into your race. And so he saw our apex car around Red Bull and Mercedes and McLaren, and he saw, wow, this is seamless. You can't tell. It doesn't look like visual effects. And then we told him we want to do it the most accurate movie, and we have Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes who's going to build the car for us. We want to make it as real as you possibly can about your sport, to celebrate your sport. And then we explained that we wanted to have Brad drive, and Damson was the other character, Damson Idris, who's an amazing young actor. So we put him in road cars, then we put him in F4 cars, and we put them in F3 cars, and finally into our car. So it was a 4-month process of training them, because you look at these races and they look kind of easy. These guys get in the car and they drive at high speeds.
No.
It's not. And
it's not. You turn the wheel that much, you're in the paint.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. And there's so much information on the steering wheel. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
We traveled to 9 different tracks, really 10, including Daytona, and get time in between practice or qualifying or the race itself where we could put our car out there. And they were so gracious, but it took a long time. The biggest obstacle was to work with the teams and explain to the teams, because Mercedes and Red Bull had a real kind of rivalry at that period.
Oh, yeah.
So Red Bull was for sure going to be the villain, and they didn't like that. And so it took a while to explain to them, you're not the villain. It's about the competition between our two drivers. That's what the movie is. It has nothing to do with you or Ferrari or Mercedes.
Well, that's Drive to Survive.
Yeah, exactly. And then they all leaned in, every one of them. We did the same thing with the drivers. We had Brad met with all the drivers as I did, and Joe, and explained to them the kind of movie we're going to make. But what people don't understand is these are the most gifted drivers in the world. They are phenomenal athletes. You go to Singapore, it's 100 degrees, and so it must be 120 in those cars. Mm-hmm. So they deal with the heat. I mean, the reaction time, the hand-eye coordination is phenomenal.
The focus.
I mean, you're going 220 miles an hour, and then you got to brake down to 50. And you want to brake at the very last second so you don't lose too much speed.
Yeah.
And that's what makes the tenth of a second driver better than the one behind him. And if you put every one of those 20 drivers in the same car, they'd be within 1 second of each other.
I love Formula One because it's not like any other sport in the sense that you really are dealing with a very finite pool of talent. And getting on and off that board is hard.
And it's so competitive, my God. I mean, if a driver does 3 races and he doesn't
you're done.
place, he's gone.
You're done.
Yeah,
it's like Italian football.
Exactly.
Casting. The idea of casting Brad Pitt for a film. Brad Pitt doesn't make that many films these days. You know, he picks very selectively. He's earned the right to do that. He's a huge box office draw. He's someone everybody, including myself, loves to see on screen. How was the conversation with Brad Pitt about F1, the movie? And you know, again, we're talking about triumph and challenge here. You got the triumph. What was the challenge of getting someone like Brad to go, yeah, you know, this is a film I want to make? It's a big commitment for him. He's got to learn a whole new skill, which I don't want to age Brad Pitt out. He looks phenomenal. Much easier for Damson probably to pick that up than it is for someone like me, because it's the reaction time. All those things tend to go with the win. So all of that plays into the question. How was it getting Brad Pitt involved?
Well, we took him to a track with Lewis Hamilton, and they drove. And Lewis came to us and said, he's a gifted athlete.
Brilliant.
He's really good.
Brilliant.
And then Lewis took Brad, on a ride on a hot lap, and I'm sure scared the hell out of him. But so it was a great experience to watch Brad get into this, and he loved it. I mean, his saddest day is when we were in Abu Dhabi at the end of the movie, and he did his last lap and had to climb out of the car, and it was my happiest day.
Yeah, he's okay.
He's okay. We got through the movie. Nobody got hurt.
Yeah.
What they were doing is, first of all, a race is an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. We had them 8-10 hours every day on the track driving. It's brutal. When they weren't on the track, they were training, because your neck, you're taking 5 Gs going in those corners. It's really physically debilitating and mentally debilitating. You gotta learn the track. We had them on simulators so they understood all the turns and
they were going fast.
You know, they were hitting 180.
That's fast.
So they were really rocking.
Yeah.
But Damson is a good athlete too.
Yeah,
we tested him too before he got the part.
You'd be bummed if you were the right actor for the job, but you just weren't a natural fit for an F1 car, wouldn't you? You know, would have been good, but soz. Going back to Days of Thunder, because the kindred spirituality between these two movies, both being driving films, one being a primarily American sport, the other one being obviously far more international, more global, I would say, if anything, you know, really, the heart and soul of it's in Europe. So let's talk a little bit about the difference between the two, having made Days of Thunder back in 1990 before any of this, and any of this,
right?
And steady can that,
yeah.
And now obviously with technology the way it is, I mean, stakes are still high. But can we go back to 1990 or 89 when you were making that film, and just how different it was making a high-speed sports danger film in 1990 versus 2025?
I mean, we didn't realize at the time. We used the best technology available to us. And Tony Scott is a visual artist and a brilliant filmmaker. And he figured out ways to get cameras in the most unusual places.
Because everybody's seen The Wide Man. That's every Saturday or Sunday when they're putting it on TV. We've seen all the cameras the TV wants you to see. You got to go around those, right?
Well, we created things in F1 where we have first of all, the cameras are a third the size. And now what we created is a camera that can pan remotely. So we put antennas around all the tracks. So when our car is going at 180. He can pan to the car next to him. He can go from Brad's face to the car next to him, which is pretty exciting.
Is there a memory from making Days of Thunder, just while we close the loop on these sort of synergy between the two, that really springs to mind? It was a moment you'll never forget during the filming of that. Could be a moment that felt particularly dangerous that kind of came up beautifully on screen, or a moment of triumph.
Yeah, we crashed a lot of cars.
Yeah.
I think we built 30 cars, and I don't think one was left. I mean, we just...
That sport is dodgems, though, isn't it? I mean, it's the whole point is like, I'm going to clip you.
Yeah, Tony Scott is, he drives motorcycles. He climbs mountains. I mean, he's a real thrill seeker. And Tom, I don't think he has a fear gene. I mean, he'll do anything. You saw in Mission Impossible, he's hanging out of a plane for 20 minutes or half an hour. It's unbelievable what he does. So you get these two guys together, and you say, oh my God, what's going to happen? So they were rubbing and, racing. It isn't racing unless you're rubbing.
Yeah.
That's what that's what NASCAR is. Much different than Formula One.
Yeah, I mean, people do it.
Yeah.
But it's a calculated risk.
That's right.
It's normally, rubber to rubber, exactly. What was your first impression of, like, when you find actors that you love, I know that, you make a commitment to them and you build franchises around these people, and it becomes this beautiful creative relationship. We get to see the benefits of it. Tom Cruise was somebody you worked with over films, plural. What did you see in him when you first met him? He'd been on screen, but you decided to invest in Tom Cruise at that time. Top Gun was a career-defining movie. That, for me, was the top Tom Cruise intro. I was too young really to see Risky Business, but I saw Top Gun and I fell in love with this guy. So what did you see?
He's charismatic. I mean, he really is. He's got this smile that lights up a room. He's so focused on what he's doing. He wants to win in the worst way. He wants everybody to win, not just him. He wants the movie. He loves entertaining audiences. That's what he wants to do. He wants to pack those theaters, give them the best experience for their money ever. And you got to commend it. It's not actors talk about their art and this and that. Tom, his art is to entertain an audience. How do I make a better movie that moves people and gathers people together to experience something that's unique, fresh, and different?
I think about Top Gun and I think about what that movie represents at the time, which is, an exercise in strength, military power, this sort of post-industrial kind of complex on screen of like, hey man, we make hardware and we go fast and we protect, and the Army and Navy and the Marines is an exciting place to be. And, when I was watching it as a kid, yeah, man, I mean, I was coming out of that world of like playing soldiers and doing all that stuff. So of course it kind of plays into that. How much of it was sort of beyond just entertainment, also a conscious statement of strength for the country, for America? Did it ever cross your mind or anyone's mind, or was it purely about the big screen?
Always about the big screen. Never about that. Never wanted to make a statement or about war or anything else. It's about character. It was all about character. It's all about this character who had to overcome something, overcome his father. What happened to his father? He had all these obstacles he had to overcome. And that's what the movie's about. It's how you overpower things that hold you back. And those are great stories. We all want that. It's kind of like F1, the same thing. You made these mistakes. Now here's another chance. Don't blow it.
The influence of movies is so beautiful, though, and it creates such a wonderful environment, to your point, to get lost in. Who do you, to your mind, is making those kind of movies today that you're not involved with, that you're a fan of? Or what are some films that you've seen that really kind of, to you, strike a chord the way that you're trying to strike a chord that you consider to be of equal experience from a movie-going point of view?
Well, Chris Nolan is one of those individuals. Oppenheimer is absolutely brilliant. I mean, who can make a hit movie out of a scientist creating a bomb, of all things, an H-bomb?
Yeah.
I mean, that was a tour de force, what he did. But they're all different kinds of, you look at Marvel and Kevin Feige and all the things that they've created, billions and billions of dollars of entertainment. These are exceptional people who can get things done that people want to go see, and I love it. I want to put my hand in my popcorn and sit down and watch one of their movies.
You've had such an incredible life in Hollywood and given so much to the city. What do you love to this day about Hollywood? For people who don't live in Hollywood, don't get to work in Hollywood, haven't helped to build the cornerstones of Movie City, what is special about Hollywood for you?
Well, it's a place where we can create dreams and magic and and move people and entertain them around the world, make them feel better. And that's my job. My job is to take a group of people, bring them into a theater, and have an experience that they lose themselves for a couple hours. And we transport them to another place, another time. We make them feel something. It's always about the emotion. How can you move them emotionally? And when audiences saw F1, they loved the humor, they loved the romance, and they felt something. And some of them had tears in their eyes at certain points in the movie.
Do you get that as well? Do you get
Every
emotional?
time, every time I look at that movie, I get tears in my eyes. And the same thing with Top Gun. It's just, they're emotional experiences. And I don't want to make a movie that doesn't take you on that kind of ride, character-wise.
Top Gun Maverick was an important film because not only did you add something to a really important franchise, you gave us another bite at the apple, which was really appreciated because, it's hard to bring something perfect back and to make us enjoy it again. And it worked at the box office. It worked in terms of, closing the story. And it was recognized in areas that, and this shocked me when I found this out, that you hadn't been recognized in before to that degree in terms of the Academy and things like that. I mean, what did that tell you in that moment when you realized, after all the great films you've made and all the amazing success you've had and the contributions you've made to Hollywood, which the Academy reflects, that, this is the movie that people understand?
Yeah, everybody wants, accolades for their work, and it's nice to get them. But my focus is on the audience. That's what, there are producers who just make movies to get awards. Yeah. I make movies to entertain audiences. And if the awards come, that's a great bonus.
It was also, pretty remarkable to see that story come to life with new talent attached to it as well. I want to talk a little bit about Maverick for a second and the idea of aging Mav up and out. In terms of he's down and out. I mean, this was the hero, the protagonist of the first one, and you've got to give him some humility. He gets turfed out of a bar in the first 10 minutes. I mean, this is kind of shocking, and it sets the whole film up. How is that for you as someone who'd helped build that character and that actor into being an American hero, to then watch him on screen and be a part of the process of tearing him down? Do you know what I mean at the beginning?
Well, you got to give him a journey. You can't have him start out as the big hero again. You got to have him have these obstacles that he has to overcome this time, which is something Tom wants to do. He's not afraid to get thrown out of a bar or made fun of in certain ways. So he's in the weeds too, just like Brad. They are in there. They're digging hard. They're like Brad. 4 months, both those actors could have done another movie, but they put their energy and time into making this movie the best possible movie.
How much fun though to learn how to drive a Formula One car. I mean, that's what I think about with actors. I mean, it's just like the Wonka factory of curiosity, isn't it?
Yeah, and when I do interviews and people who don't understand the sport will say, Jerry, you got to drive one of those cars. Yeah. And I say, you've got to be kidding. First of all, they mold the seat to you. They make the seat specially for your body. An F2 driver who's a champion, it takes him a week to figure out how to drive an F1 car. That is the difference between these two cars. And the F2 engine that we had was going 180 miles an hour. I mean, it's spectacular that these cars are so precision. And when you look at a team and you see the pit crew and you see all the people around the monitors, that's maybe 5% of the people that actually work on these cars. There are 1,000 people back in England looking at monitors and telling them their tire pressure and all kinds of crazy things. And they built these cars. They can put them together in a week.
It must have been kind of unique for you going in, and normally you arrive with your crew and your infrastructure and the circuses in town, but you're getting swallowed up by F1, right, to some degree.
Oh, listen, we had to fight for track time. We built these cars, and then we built a garage. We had our own garage. And we were like between Red Bull and Ferrari in some of the races. So we're right in there with all these teams. And that was the gracious thing that F1 and the various 10 teams awarded us, because we were straightforward. We told them everything we were going to do. And we showed the movie to the drivers a couple of weeks ago in Monaco.
What did they think? How was
it? They kind of see it as it should be a documentary. I explained to them it's not a documentary. It's a movie about your sport, about these characters in our world. And I think they really got a kick out of it. They said it was terrific. I mean, a couple of drivers said, this is the first time I've watched a film that shows exactly what we kind of see when we're sitting in these cars.
Then you did it.
Yeah.
Then you did it, right? Because you're always going to make a great film, Jerry. You're always going to find a way to put it on screen for us to enjoy it. But for the drivers to feel like you did them right, that's a beautiful thing. I want to just ask one more question about Maverick, and then we'll get back to F1. There's a particularly poignant scene. I'm sure you know where I'm going with this, where Tom Cruise and Val Kilmer get to spend one more moment on screen.
Yeah.
And now, of course, in reflection of Val Kilmer passing away, which was a great loss, but what a life and what an amazing journey he gave us as an actor. I just wanted to get your reflection on that moment, because I'm sure you were on set when that scene was happening, and just from being there, how powerful that was for both those actors and for yourself, having started that journey with them.
It's a scene we shot a couple times to make sure we got it right. Tom is about, it's got to be perfect. You got to hit a bullet with a bullet. And the first time we did it, it was too distant. The location was beautiful, but it was too distant. So we decided to put it
in terms of their proximity together to create the intimacy.
Yeah,
of the scene.
It was outside. Tom and Joe decided to put it inside in Val's study. And it just, Val then was sick. I mean, he wasn't really healthy. And he got so into it. Tom, he told me, he said, look, we're not making this movie unless we put Val in it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make it.
Yeah.
And we had to convince Val to play where he was in his own life, and that's hard. Yeah. But Val was a soldier, and he came in and said, let's go make it happen. And I mean, his performance there was so great, and Tom reacting to him was fantastic. I mean, that's kind of the heart and soul. Those are the emotions we want to give you when we make a movie.
There was no acting that day, was there?
No, it was a real deal.
It was the real deal. What a life you live. And I want to give you a compliment that's probably the best compliment I can give you, person to person, that we've just met, that you've seemed to have built a beautiful life around this chaos. Relationships and family and, the stuff that's really important. I want to talk about the balance between the kind of success that people can lose themselves in. You've lost friends to success.
Sure, absolutely.
And, you've been able to continue to live your best life and just to reflect on that and how you've gone about that for yourself.
Well, you get grounded. I've been with the same woman for 48 years, and she sets me straight all the time. She makes sure I'm grounded, which is great. And I have a daughter, and that's all part of your family unit that kind of settles you. No matter how terrible your day is, you come home and you have people there that love you and want the best for you.
What is it about success, in particular in the entertainment business, when you start reaching that high level of success, that can be so intoxicating that good people can lose their way?
For me, it's never about the past. It's always about tomorrow. I don't think about any of those successes or anything. I just worry about what is next. How are we going to get through tonight? How is this going to be perceived? What is the next movie? What is our next TV show? Where are we going? The past for me is only to not remake those mistakes that you made. Yeah. You learn from those mistakes, move forward, think about what the next film is going to be. That's where my energy goes. My energy now is to promote this movie and to make sure we deliver for Warner Brothers and Apple, because the movie wasn't cheap, but it's not expensive considering what we put on the screen or compared to other movies in the marketplace. We're right in line with the big Supermans and all those other movies. So it's not more expensive than any of those films.
When do you start thinking about the next film? When you're making this one and you're spending 4 years trying to get it made, and then you're in production and the drivers have to learn how to drive the cars, and then it starts to show up on screen, you're seeing the dailies, you're seeing it cut together. When do you start to go, okay, I can compartmentalize this experience and stay focused on this and start thinking about what my next objective is going to be?
We develop material all through making movies. There's always something that we're working on next. It's like a runway. You have all these jets lined up, and which ones are going to take off and which ones are going to stall. That's the business I'm in.
Getting back to F1, this film, what do you want people to ultimately take away from this film? When you can't guarantee anybody is going to love it. To your point, we started the conversation acknowledging that. That's just trying to catch wind in a bottle. But if you could, What would you want people to take away from this?
They've had an experience. They've been moved. They learned something. They found out about a sport that they never had any interest in. As an example, we did what we call a blind preview.
What is that?
It means you gather an audience and say, you're going to see a summer movie. They have no idea what it is. So we screened the movie, and then we had a focus group afterwards, 20 people. First question they asked was, how many people are familiar with F1 or have seen a race? One hand went up, 20. Okay?
Perfect sample audience.
This is in California.
Yeah.
Next question was, how many are interested in F1 now, would like to see a race? Every hand went up. One woman raised her hand and she said, when you said the name of the movie and it was about racing, I wanted to get up and leave. I have absolutely no interest in that sport. It's just noise to me. She said, not only did I rate the movie excellent, I'm telling all my friends to go see it. Because she was emotionally engaged in this movie. And the racing had no bearing on, in fact, that was a negative point. She fell in love with the characters and wanted to see that journey. And that's what we try to do when we make a movie. We want them to take that ride with our characters and be a part of it. They'll never be Sonny Hayes. They'll never be Tamsin Idris, JP. But they will have over 2 hours of entertainment that they will take them on.
What was your favorite day of filming, if there was one, or scene that was shot that again, is in your memory bank now alongside the other great films you've made where you just won't forget that in a hurry?
I think the first day when we were at Silverstone and he climbed in the car for the first time and he had to drive in front of 140,000 people there and 100 million on television. And just to see his composure, that I'd be scared to death.
Do you think he was nervous?
I don't know. I mean, he's so...
Gotta be.
He's so calm and cool, this guy. He really is. And he, because you don't want him to spin out, and first of all, they didn't know it was with Brad in the car, but still, if he spun out, somebody would have picked it up.
Yeah.
And he just did it beautifully and hit all the right turns and corners and got the speed. And that was a great day. He said, okay, he can do it. If he can do this in front of all these people, he can. We got another 12 weeks of him.
Jerry, I make music and I talk to primarily people who make music, and there's an infrastructure and a cadence to how people make that, and it doesn't always go the way you want it to. Sometimes you feel like the album is coming together and sometimes you feel like you just want to tear it up and start again. Does that, as a producer and someone who's there every step of the way with the creative and production side of things, does it still happen to you? Are there moments when you're like, I need to take a step back and see this with some perspective because it's not my instinct. You know what I mean? I'm not feeling it the way I want to feel it.
Well, that's the audience tells you. They tell you right away. I've had movies that we screened for an audience and there were maybe 10 people left. Everybody walked out. And then it was a movie with Michelle Pfeiffer called Dangerous Minds about a school teacher in Northern California. And then we worked on it for a year. And it became a hit movie. Yeah. It did over $100 million in those days. That was a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's what's great. Music's the same way. You can go back and it's a lot cheaper. You can go back in the studio. You can add more musicians. You can change the melody. You can add choruses. You can do all kinds of cool things with it.
Yeah, it's true. But when you've shot 70% of a film and you're not sure if the arc is how you imagined it to be, I can imagine that the stakes feel a lot higher.
Yeah, it is. But what you do is we bring in talent. We bring in writers and say, all right, how would you fix this? Because we've been too close to it. Tell us what you would do.
Yes.
And when we did Bad Boys, we were going to shoot the opening of the movie. And I said, it's not good. The script, we never got it right. So I said, don't shoot it. Let's cut the movie together. And then we'll bring some people in. We brought some great writers in, and they came up with a great idea on the opening of the movie.
You did the opening scene after you'd already kind of edited a majority of the film, so you could see kind of what piece of the puzzle was missing.
Exactly.
We've talked a lot about F1, and we've also touched on just some of the many films you've produced and given the world. And there's one through line here with a lot of your films, which is maybe with the exception of the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, which felt a lot more fantastical. But most of your films will have some kind of strong soundtrack or music element to it.
Yes, I love it.
Yeah, and I want to talk to you about that. I want to talk to you a little bit about the combination of music and cinema. You're obviously very involved in that as a producer, so you have a hand in that. And I feel like there's always big songs that come out of Bruckheimer films.
It started way back on I'm trying to think. First of all, it started on Flashdance, of course. You know, I was watching the movie and I said, God, whoever this composer is, he's really talented. And so I met with the head of music at Paramount, and I said, how do I get to this? Guy's makes hits all the time. How can I get to him? He said, I'll introduce you. And that was George R. Moroder.
Yeah, amazing.
And so he made
Wow.
that soundtrack phenomenal. I mean, he's such a great writer and producer, and so I've had a long relationship with that. In fact, I'm going to try to do a movie about his life because it's fascinating.
You know, you talk a little bit about loving music and loving it. You know, you've had a long relationship with Hans Zimmer as well.
Yes.
That side of things is very important. I'm a huge Thomas Newman fan. I love composition. You know, working with Hans on a score like that, again, you got to trust Hans. He knows what he's doing, but you got to feel it, right? When you sit there in the edit bay and you hear the music come together, unless your hairs stand up, unless you get the feeling, it's not going to work for you. So how was that on this film, and how is working with Hans? What's the relationship like there?
I mean, he's a genius. I don't know where it comes from. I really don't. He'll sit down and he'll play something for us, and you get the goosebumps. It's just there. And then he'll build it out. He'll build it out for all the scenes, and he'll write multiple melodies for characters. But it's not easy. It's hard because he has to be in a place where it's the last second. That's his art. And there's enormous pressure, and the director's getting nuts. Where's our music? Where is it? I said, just be patient. He will get there. He will get there. It happened on F1. Joe was getting nervous. Well, when are we going to hear something? When are we going to hear something? And then finally, he was on tour, so he couldn't do anything. And he comes back. He's back for a week, and then he plays something. And Joe said, "That's it.
Perfect.
We got it.
Yeah.
We got it." And we took the melody for that and put it in a song with Doja Cat. I mean, so that is something that is magical that he brings. That is just, I don't know where that gift comes from. How many notes are there? Not that many notes, and yet you can rearrange them to make something that's unique and different for every movie you make.
You talked about making a film about Giorgio Moroder's life. What a fascinating life that is. I'm a fan of documentaries. I think that it's important that we continue to find stories to tell, because we've done a good job of telling a lot of them. One that hasn't been really told is yours. And I sort of wonder, I appreciated the message you sent, which was, I like to look forward. I don't like to look back, as much as it's important to kind of learn from things. But how are you with reflection, or about other people's reflection of your life because of the great experiences you've had? Would you be comfortable with letting somebody tell your story?
Not really. I want people to remember me for the movies, not for me. I want them to. It's so great when people come up to you and say, "God, you were part of my childhood, all your movies. I just grew up on that gives me the thrill." That's what I want. And I want the next generation to be inspired by F1, become filmmakers or composers or writers. And that is what I love. That's what, Michael Bay was telling me a story that when he saw the first Top Gun, he was like, he got so inspired by it, he wanted to become a director.
Yeah.
And that's what we try to do. That's the gift that I want to give to the next generation, is be inspired by what we do, have it move you into a career. But what I always tell talent is, do what you love doing that gives you a glow. You know, when you finish something or you're doing it and you say, boy, that was good. I felt good about that. And that is what we try to give to the youth. But sometimes people don't get the glow that they want to get for the things they think they want to be, and they're not good at it. I would love to be an actor. I'd love to be in front of the camera. I'm no good at it. So I found something that I love doing, that I get the glow every time I watch one of our films. And I'll get it tonight again. And when I sit there with 4,200 people watching this movie in IMAX and phenomenal sound, and that's when I feel great.
Jerry Bruckheimer, thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure to meet you, and thank you for the films. You've entertained us endlessly over the course of your life and continue to do so. Good luck with F1 the movie tonight, and thank you for stopping by.
Thanks, Zane. It's been a pleasure. You're great at what you do.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.